Hey, everybody. We are live, pal. Andrew, I contemplated trying to figure out if I could wear a neck brace for this show, but I'm not creative enough to pull that off, I don't think.
I was going to put on a suit and pretend I was Vince in Eastern District Court here in New York.
Man, it did happen. The attack, the elite attacking Tony Khan did happen now 6 days ago, but you and I haven't had a chance to talk about it, so I do want to talk about it a little bit. But it does bleed over into the NFL draft stuff because if you were watching the NFL Network version of the draft, everyone probably saw it on Twitter. And we got to see Tony Khan in full character, making claims, being pro wrestler on one end and being businessman in the same interview in the span of 2 minutes. So, but first, let's talk about this angle. This one felt like a Hail Mary to me. I feel like Tony Khan had this one in the chamber. It was an idea. This is something he was going to bust out when he needed it. They pulled it out on Wednesday. He is now a full character on the show. He took a microphone jab to the gut.
Yeah, he did.
Then he took the TK driver.
No, don't call it that. Don't call it that. We can't call it that. We cannot call it a TK driver.
No, but the Meltzer driver.
It's a Meltzer driver.
The Meltzer driver is different because the Meltzer driver is not from the top rope. The Meltzer, or from the corner. The Meltzer driver is from the middle. So that's the difference. It, only we wrestling fans care about that. But overall, when you watch it, now we're not even talking about the ratings. We're not talking about, sort of how the internet reacted. As you were watching it, what did you think?
So I saw he got punched in the stomach, and I honestly thought they were going to do a double V trigger on him because that's how he was standing. So I was like, okay, they're going to do it. I didn't expect them to take a TK driver. It's hot shotting, and it caught. If you wanted to get people to talk, it worked 100%. There's no question about it. And the timing of everything worked out perfectly. I don't think this was planned. I think this kind of, and I actually would love to find out, and I could probably find out how this came about, but I liked it. I didn't have a problem with it at all. I thought it was different. It's something we haven't seen in the company's history. Tony has not been a character for TV. And if this is leading to Omega returning tomorrow and becoming, I guess, some sort of on-screen character until he's healed up to wrestle, I think that's fantastic.
You better have some bodyguards, man. He better have
between
three
Okada and the Bucks.
Oh my
God! Between Okada and the Bucks, very cool. He's coming back tomorrow, and this is going to play into it. And who was screaming? Was it on Collision or was it on Collision? Or I think it was on Collision where the Bucks said, "Who's in charge now?" or something like that.
Yeah, I don't remember that part though. I did watch Collision.
Listen, you could do.
I did watch Collision.
Thing.
A little bit of a fast forward because there was so much stuff going on. But okay, so I love.
What did you think?
Okay, I love the idea.
Okay,
the idea of Jack Perry coming back, unfairly fired or suspended, I guess. Which does make Tony the heel a little bit, though, in that scenario. I love the idea of them using the sort of the real world happenings in a storyline. My problem with the storyline is this should have been like a 2 to 3 week build, and we should have seen a little bit of dissension with Tony Khan and the Young Bucks. They could have done a couple of segments where they're kind of bossing him around a little bit in the back, and he's kind of giving them dirty looks. Then when you do finally pull this thing off, you don't just have smiling Tony right in the middle of the ring, just like, not knowing what's coming. And
maybe that's part of it, right? Like, I listen. I'm going to play devil's advocate, right? Let's play a game of debate here. What if that is part of the story? Tony's been shown on TV a little bit more than usual, especially with the Bucks.
And they just boss him
backstage.
around, and he does it, right?
and he does it. They boss him around, and he does it. So I mean, if you're doing a wow, this came out of nowhere, and you didn't want the audience to see it coming, if that's the direction they were going down, yeah, I think they did it the right way. If you're trying to tell the story of like, what's going on here, then it wasn't so much that. But I think it was more of the surprise, like, I can't believe Tony did this.
So if that is the case, then I think we are supposed to have believed that Tony Khan was a heel. Because in order for it to be a surprise, we know the Bucks are heels. They tried to, end Sting's career. They already said that they wanted to end his career. So they're heels. So then Tony would have had to have been in cahoots with them, and then they would have had to have turned on him in order for that part of it to make sense. But then again, like I said, I saw this as a Hail Mary, which is like what you said. It was a hot shot. It was 1999 WWF car crash television, where you'd take the germ of a 4-week story and you'd like wrap it up in 2 hours of a television show. And I think sometimes that can work. Like in WWF, it worked because the star power was so gigantic in 1999 WWF, and they just kept that TV moving. They also had Nitro on the other end, so they couldn't risk losing, the eyeballs. Dynamite doesn't have that. Now they have different hurdles, right? They have a contract renewal coming up, hopefully for them, and they need the ratings. But this did not actually work out in their favor, I don't think, when it came to the ratings coming out. Like, this did not seem like a giant win. And I do wonder if you did tease it for 2 weeks and you teased the idea on this show that something was going to happen and Tony Khan may have to get involved here, and then the heels beat him up, maybe more people are interested rather than, the 2-hour build to what should have been. Again, I thought the idea was great. I just did not like the way that it worked out so quickly. So, but that's kind of what good. One more thing is AEW has leaned into the hot shotting of late, right? That seems to be kind of where they're going with some of this stuff, at least.
Yeah, well, the ratings have not been good, and it was not good at all. But this week, they were up against, every major market is in the freaking playoffs for every sport now, basketball and hockey. So that's taken away something. Also, on top of that, they were live on the West Coast. So 5 p.m. Pacific. Who's watching TV? That played a part. Probably, I don't know, 10% here, 12% there. I don't know what it would be exactly. I have to
Dave
look at
said
actually.
8.
Dave,
I think he said
Dave
8.
said 8.
His thought was 8.
I think. You know what? That's a very low
10.
conservative number. Yeah, that's a very conservative number, and I think 8%. Okay, fine. You lost 8% there, and you got the basketball playoffs. You got hockey playoffs. Sure, it's going to happen, but I don't think it was any indicator of the ratings. I think the indicator is going to be the next couple weeks building this to whatever you're going to do. Because you know what the end result should be: CM Punk coming to rescue Tony. That should be it. You want a hot shot and angle? That's the one. In another world, that's what would have been happening.
Instead,
there was a
on Raw
parallel universe
making fun of Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, there's a parallel universe somewhere where things didn't go awry, and he's running to Tony's rescue.
So we'll talk about Collision here in a second, because for once, Collision was actually, a sort of a newsworthy show. It had the fallout of this angle, but also what it had was the fallout of Tony Khan being on television in the neck brace. And Dave and I talked about this on Friday. He talked about them being the Pepsi and called WWE evil, and then made the Harvey Weinstein. He didn't call Vince Harvey Weinstein. He called WWE Harvey Weinstein. Made that comment, which, of course, the internet loved it. Twitter back and forth, pro and con about not Tony Khan, but the other Khan. What did you think when you saw him basically playing pro wrestler on the draft?
As far as committing to a story, I thought that was a plus. It got everything he wanted out of it. People were talking about it. Pat McAfee went berserk about it. He got a kick out of the whole thing. He called it the Meltzer driver, by the way, and that guy got such a kick out of that.
Yeah.
It served its purpose. Whatever that was that Tony was trying to get, it got so much attention. I don't know how football fans look at it, if they saw it as some goofy wrestling thing or they were intrigued by it. I don't know, because I'm a little biased. I watch wrestling, so I didn't feel that way.
So I tweeted when I saw it, I said, there's a fine balance between laughing with you and laughing at you. And I thought that one was like straddling the line. Like, I think I would have been fine if Tony Khan, without the neck brace, was being serious and did pretty much that same promo that he did. The Weinstein line, whatever it is, whatever people thought about that stuff, that didn't really bother me. It's just kind of where we are with both companies right now. But the fact that he did it with the neck brace in character kind of made it seem more like a joke to me. And maybe that was part of that he thought was part of the charm was, here's, this is wacky. And so I'm going to be wacky. What I would be interested in, and I don't know if you've heard from anybody, I wonder what the talent thought, because it was absolutely an opportunity to have the NFL draft in of itself. You could have had guys from your company there with the Jaguars, maybe to announce a draft pick or something really late in the draft. And nobody was able to take advantage of that, but it was kind of Tony being the star of the company. And I do think that this is a problem when your owner is your lead face for the product. It's sort of like, for the outsiders who don't know anything about AEW, what they see is an owner who is, he's a little goofy sometimes. And if you don't know about wrestling, you don't know about AEW, and you see this guy being sort of the carny of the whole thing, I do wonder what people think, because I'm going to guess that there's some people who work for that company who thought that was a little bit of a cringe moment, when it could have been an opportunity to maybe put somebody else in that position.
Yeah, I would say, for the feedback that I got, some thought it was great and hysterical. Others thought, and I think you kind of figure out who thought what, in that company, by their concept of what pro wrestling is. You had a half and half or whatever. I don't know if it's half and half. I heard both sides. So, the couple of people that I spoke to, I heard both ways to do it. I'm not against it, because I want to see how this plays out. I don't know if it's going to play out to be something good, or if it's going to be something really corny and we're going to look at this and say, yikes. I don't know yet. It's been 1 week. So I'm giving it time to kind of play out. I think Kenny Omega entering into the mix is very telling, where they're building to something here. And, if it's a Double or Nothing and Kenny comes back, I don't know. If it's a Forbidden Door, I don't know. If it's something for All In. I don't know what the direction here is or how this leads into, but are you going to do an elite war? Like, are you going to have Hangman and Kenny and 2 other people versus, the elite now?
Okay, so then we have Collision, and we knew from the beginning, from the get-go, that Collision was going to have an artificial bump to it, because the Heat and the Celtics were going to go from the end of that game right into Collision. I guess there was some time frame in which there was like a post game or something. They decided to do a promo with Swerve, which I did not think was hot. I thought that he was sort of like retelling all the events that had happened since Dynamite, or even since the pay-per-view, I guess, in this weird way. He did not come across as like that must-see TV cool guy that I often see him as. And then all of a sudden, Claudio Castagnoli comes out and he does the open challenge. He doesn't even really cut a promo. He's just in a suit. He accepts, and then he goes to the back. And then there's this wide shot of Daly's place that I was like, man, this looks worse than like the Performance Center. Like, why are they shooting this angle of the building? It looks like just this small generic place. And the ratings came out today, and so that 7 minutes of that angle, I think did like a 0.49 or something like that. So they did have that nice bump, and that's what they got for the 7. I guess it was maybe 7. The first segment was 7 minutes or whatever. And I was left thinking, wow, like that was the creative there. I thought it was a bit of a missed opportunity. Yeah. Not that Claudio is a bad person to have a match against, but what is Claudio doing right now that makes you hot for that segment? I didn't get that part of it.
I wonder if. So
go ahead.
Here's my question. Okay, I wonder if Claudio being in that position was because they came out with a big, like that opening quarter did unbelievable numbers for them, and that match had about 800,000 people watching it. Yeah. Do you think it was? People are going to tune in. They're watching the game. They tune in. They see Swerve. Okay, that's a champion. And here comes, oh my God, it's Cesaro. What is he doing there?
So I actually thought about that.
It's exactly like the Jericho thing where after the NBA game, they turn it on and there was Jericho. And unfortunately, Jericho got ridiculed. But
I actually thought about that. Just what you were saying. I was thinking, what if Swerve called him Cesaro? In the promo, I thought that might have been interesting, but honestly, Cesaro as Cesaro was not a giant star in WWE, right? He was kind of always in that same middle spot. He's actually been much better booked in AEW. I was just thinking, like, why did the Elite not come out at that moment? Why are we not building to Matt Jackson versus Swerve, which is going to be a better match, which is going to be a more not better necessarily, but more high spots if that's what you're looking for? Because actually, Nick Jackson will probably be better. Nick Jackson, will, for the high spots and such, and it will be more heated. And you could, Swerve. It looks like he may be leaning towards. Going after those guys. We don't know for sure, but I was like, why are we not playing off of what we just saw on Wednesday? Nick Jackson could take a pin if they wanted to, right? He's a tag team champion. He could take a pin to the world champion. I just didn't get Cesaro. I didn't get Claudio. I didn't get that at all. I just thought, wow, what a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I think it quite possibly has to do with name recognition. I think that's what it was. I think they knew they would have a bunch of disenfranchised or former WWE fans tuning in. There was 3 million people watching that game. It was tremendous, right? Big number. So, they were hoping that it would catch someone's attention. They would stick around, which they did. I mean, they didn't drop off until after that. I mean, it was actually those ratings for the quarters, it just dives off a cliff at the end, but it was bound to happen. I don't think you were going to have a ton of those people sticking around. They were intrigued. They watched about 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes of it, and they left.
So I actually have the numbers, and these are from WrestleNomics. The 18 to 49, that first 7-minute segment was a 0.49. Then it went 0.30, 0.22, 0.22. So at least through around the first hour, the minimum quarter was a 0.22. Then it went 0.18, 0.18, 0.16, 0.17, 0.15. And then for the actual audience of it, it started off the 7 minutes of the Swerve promo was 1.3 million people watching. The first 15 minutes of the actual quarter were 850,000. And like you said, it just went down. So I'm not sure if it works anyways. Like, I'm not sure if we've ever seen proof of, having that giant sports lead in and then it meaning that you have new fans. Like WWE had that one Christmas episode years back where they opened super high coming off of a football game, I think. And I don't think we saw for 4 weeks that they just were at like a new high. It doesn't necessarily work like that, especially if you don't have something that people really, really want to watch. But it was just interesting. I took Saturday as Tony Khan saying, here's our best shot right now to draw to grab hold of audience, and it was Swerve and Claudio in a promo. So I don't know, I just have a different idea of what that could have been, but Tony was also working multiple jobs last weekend and selling an injury, so he was working hard, but it just
they committed to it. They had a plan, and a lot of people were questioning why didn't Swerve start off Wednesday, and I think it's because they realized they knew the number was going to be terrible for that show. They were very aware of that, so that was the answer to that. And then him opening up right after a big game made all the sense in the world to me. I didn't have a problem with any of that. I thought it was good. I think the problem was it's a bad night. Saturdays are not a great night for them.
So let's talk about what not being a great night for them could mean, because the NBA, very heavily rumored that Disney and Amazon are going to be 2 of the 3 packages, which means the NBC and Warner Brothers Discovery may be competing or are competing for what may possibly be the last package for NBA games. And so the story came out yesterday. Wall Street Journal story came out that NBC had a bid of $2.5 billion per year for the rights to the NBA. And it was not the top package, so it's big money for a lesser package. And it's a little bit over double what Warner was paying under the current deal. And what's interesting about this is there is a network element to this, because NBC obviously can put games on actual NBC. They can also put games on Peacock, so you get the streaming element. And they also have cable channels that they could put games on if need be as well, USA being one of those. So Warner now has it sounds like they have the opportunity to match the deal. But part of matching the deal,
it's a crazy deal to match.
Well, also, they don't have a network broadcast component to their rights. So how could they actually match what NBC has without getting another company involved with them on this bid?
Yeah, I mean, that's a ton of money and it's C-level game, right? It's not a it's not
they're not getting the finals.
They're not getting the finals.
The finals.
Yeah. That's a lot of money, and so here's a question, right? So what is it? 2.5 billion.
Yeah.
Astronomical. I don't even know if they think they could. Is this going to be a loss leader for them? Because the amount of
it has to be, right?
The amount of ad revenue you have to generate.
Well, it's the carriage fee thing too, right? Because they make their money. They make most of their money on the carriage fees.
Yeah.
And even with the NBA, the carriage fees money is probably going to be similar to what they're paying to the NBA.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They're not going to be able to make their money back. So the only thing is that I guess they're hoping that maybe it's honestly the concept that there's a tremendous decline in cable, and the only thing that's going to be worthwhile is first run sports content. And that's the only thing that'll be able to generate any kind of revenue. So you'll lose a little bit of money, and you'll build your book, and then you'll make it up in a couple of years, or it'll lead into something that you could sell money to, sell ads for. I mean, that's a crazy number for C-level games.
So here's the other thing, and I think this is some of if you're a league, you're trying to figure out how to future-proof your viewership. And let's say, I don't know what the decline is in cable right now, but let's say this deal is 10 million, or sorry, for 10 years. I don't exactly know. I don't remember what the number is, but let's say 10 years. What is our cable universe now? And what is our cable universe going to be in 10 years? Because that's what you have to also take into account. And that's why you want some of these games on the broadcast network stuff, because people can get them over the air, or people can get them through, your Hulu Live or your YouTube Live. So what is that number going to be? And does that make the network broadcast even more important than the cable element of it in the long run? And which means, what does WBD do? Because they don't have a network, a broadcast network. They only have a cable network.
Yeah, I mean, does it matter as much? Does broadcast versus cable matter as much today? I don't think so. I think 10 years ago,
probably not within the next, probably not this year, next year. But what about in 10 years? What about near the end of this deal? Is the universe going to be 30% of what it is today? Is it going to be 50% of what it is today? I think that's the thing that's tricky.
That's why everybody's looking into simulcasting. That's why every conversation I've heard from the WBD side about this AEW deal, it was always told to me as, hey, another thing that everybody's looking to do, and this is where things are headed, is, you have your game on ABC, but you have a whatever, I guess for ABC it would be a simulcast on ESPN Plus or whatever it is. There is a digital streaming element to it, and that's how they're making it up. Something that was said to me that was very interesting by somebody in TV recently. Channel surfing is a thing of the past. It doesn't exist. And it was a huge part of cable television for discoverability. Sure. You were able to go on there and click all the way up to channel 570 or whatever the hell it is. And you would see, like, okay, maybe this tickles me. Maybe I'm into this. Maybe this channel. Maybe that channel. You don't really have that when you're stuck on the internet. When you may have that on YouTube. That's the closest thing. But if you're on Peacock and I'm on Max and you're on Netflix, that really is not an easy transition to exit an app and to enter another app. It's far worse having to go from linear to streaming.
Yeah.
Most people are not living on linear. I have cable. I don't have cable, I should say. But I have YouTube TV and I have Hulu TV.
Sure.
Okay? That's the equivalent of it. Because I don't want a set-top box and I don't want to change inputs when I'm going back and forth. However, a lot of people do. And if it's going to cut down on your going back and forth, if I'm living on, input one, and this is such a stupid comparison, right? This is a dumb example, but this is the reality. If your cable box is on input one, and I'm now on input two, and I'm on my Fire Stick, and all my apps are there, why would I not want my television product living in one of the apps on that input? Effort, everybody wants effortless. That's what everybody wants. And that's why it was so easy to go from channel, 23 on USA to channel 6 on TNT, or channel 3 in New York, channel 3 on TNT on Time Warner Cable. And we're going back and forth because it was instant. I didn't have to think about changing inputs, clicking on a button, going into the app. So if they could, expand more and it'll be tracked by Nielsen, this is just another thing to sell. So I think for WBD, now my question to you, and I heard Dave talk about this a little, and there really isn't an answer here, and I'm dying to talk to key people there to find out, certain people that know, is losing the NBA rights a negative or a positive for AEW? Is there more pressure for them to have to keep that rating up on TNT? Not so much TBS, but on TNT?
I think so. I would, just without knowing what the lay of the land is as far as what they think. Now, this goes back to, gosh, it was over a year ago when David Zaslav said that they didn't need the NBA. Like, he put those words out in the universe, a year ago. So if he was being truthful, they're sort of planning for a life without the NBA if need be. Like, he already said that. So I would imagine that this is not a surprise for them. And I would imagine that part of Tony's negotiation is a little bit more of an inside look at this than we currently have, which is, here's what it's like with the NBA and here's what it's like without the NBA. So I would think that because of what we've heard, because of the positivity that we've heard about this upcoming rights deal, like you've been pretty consistent in what you've been saying about, you're very optimistic about this deal. I would imagine that the plan B of being without the NBA, if that was a negative for AEW, I think we would have heard it already. So that's why I'm optimistic that it's not going to hurt them, and it could help them. Now, what could it help them with? Would they need more programming? Because we sure as hell do not need more wrestling on that network, right? We have 5 hours already. So it could they get better nights for, like, could Collision, instead of being on a Saturday, could we have Dynamite on Tuesday and Collision on Thursday? I think that would be a little bit better than what they currently have now. So it could help them even with placement. But yeah, that I mean, this is what we're sort of dying to see, right? Is what happens
Tuesday was
finally
NBA,
when
right?
I think Tuesday and Wednesday.
Tuesday and Wednesday. Tuesday was NBA for them, so that's why they.
Tuesday, Thursday would be
Tuesday,
TNT.
Thursday,
but TBS, I don't know what's on TBS. So.
And I know Tony didn't want to compete with football, so that's why Thursday was out. I keep thinking, what if SmackDown gets moved to Thursday, which would make a lot more sense for WWE. It would be a better schedule for them. Then their Fridays are open for a house show or whatever they're doing, or the Hall of Fame or travel. I think for WWE it would be better for the guy.
What if SmackDown went to Wednesday?
That's a nail. Well, then you're dead.
Right?
They kill you. They kill you. You're over. It's over. And you cannot move to Tuesday. Box you in. You don't want Monday. You can't go to Tuesday because you're going to be competing with NXT. And in a cold product, which they're semi-cold now, you don't want to do that. It's going to only take away your audience more. I think Collision going to a Friday would be a much better deal for them. We'll see. I don't know, but the simulcasting, it doesn't matter. If WBD realizes that they could generate a lot of their audience with simulcasting on that app and attract a younger demo number, because it will be a younger demo number on that app. My father's not watching on Max. My father watches on TNT. And that's who I always think about, 50 plus. And that's a big portion of your audience. You don't want to alienate them by going streaming exclusive.
Yeah.
I think for WWE, they're fine because everybody knows Netflix and everybody has it already.
So I asked Dave this question. This would have been probably 6 months ago. And I said, SmackDown's moving off of Fox. What would it take for WWE to take SmackDown exclusively to streaming? And he said there would be a number where you could offset the loss of viewership just with actual money from the deal. Now, this is even before Raw went to Netflix, and I think the Netflix deal is a little bit different because they actually have more possible visibility than USA, right? Because they're in way more households and there's this global aspect. So WWE is actually taking a little bit less money for the opportunity of new eyeballs. So that's why that Netflix deal worked the way it did. But let's say Amazon Prime was in the was a competitor for AEW at some point. Would $100 million from Amazon be the same as $100 million from Warner Brothers? And the answer is no. Because you're losing what you've established there, and then you have this, what you just said, which is like the difficulty in actually putting the app on, and so you'll lose viewership. But what if it was 100 versus 200? Then it may be worth it.
$200 million a year. Yeah, then it definitely is worth it because it's paying the bills and your diehard group of people that are supporting everything will go there, but you're now you're boxed in, so your growth kind of goes away a little bit.
And I'm not saying that is even, but I'm not saying that that's even on the table right now. Obviously, we know that they can only negotiate with Warner Brothers right now. But I'm just saying the mentality of going streaming in that aspect, you would actually have to make more money going streaming in order for it to be worthwhile. Okay.
So here's the other thing, right? For WWE going to Netflix, everybody says, "Wow, their reach is so much bigger," right? WWE on Netflix. Netflix has a huge reach. It's way bigger than USA. Yes, it is, but that's a global number. You're not talking about North America, New York and Canada, United States and Canada, it's around 82 million subscribers. It's less than what they're getting on Fox. It's less than what they have on USA.
It's less than what they're getting on Fox. I'm not sure that it's less of what they're getting on USA, though.
USA's in the 90 millions, no?
Let me look it up. The USA in cable households. It could 90 be something. It could be close, but those numbers have been dropping.
Wow. Look at this. It's 71 million households.
Yeah.
That's a decrease of 4 million from 2022.
And this is what I was talking about.
2018, it was 90 million. Wow, that's actually way more than I thought.
Yeah, it's what's the rate in which people are canceling cable. That is the thing that the NBA
huge drop.
That's what the NBA is thinking about is is this decline? What's the happy medium here? When is it going to stop? What is that bottom end going to be like? And thus, do we want to keep investing in cable when we don't know what that is, or do we just want to go back to broadcast because we will have those numbers are going to be more accountable for what they want their product. So that's kind of
that is low. Yeah, that's very low. Do you remember when they went to Spike?
Oh yeah,
and people were saying like, "Wow, this is terrible. They're only in like 68 million homes or whatever it was, Or I think it was around 68 million homes when they initially went to the TNN.
Yeah,
and people were very concerned how bad that is. And now look at the USA. USA's in 70 million homes. That's it.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that. I actually thought it was much higher.
Yeah, it's declining, man. I mean, you just said yourself, you're off of cable. You're using I always forget the acronym. It's like VMPVD or something like that.
Yeah, but this counts. But remember, that counts. If you have one of those services, like a Sling TV, a YouTube, Direct TV Now, or whatever it's called, YouTube TV, that all counts with cable.
That is interesting because I think there's only, I want to say, YouTube TVs maybe got like between 5 and 7 million. And then I think
nothing crazy.
And Hulu is in even less than that. So if you're talking about just actual Charter or Comcast or whatever the things, that's even lower than.
Yeah. They have 8 million YouTube TV.
Probably some of that isn't due to getting the NFL Sunday ticket thing.
But that you know what's interesting? So like you look at YouTube, right? Look at YouTube. And you look at when there's a live show on there, it's actually amazingly low, those numbers. Like when you had Danielson and Suzuki on there,
mm-hmm.
I think they didn't even hit 100,000, or maybe they just hit 100,000.
It was like 100,000 watching live, I think, something like that.
Right? Like think about that. 100,000 out of what that you normally get. It's about a third, if not less. It's interesting how it doesn't convert the same.
Yep.
TV viewership to streaming. It never does. It's always lower. And I
think the YouTube audience is kind of unique though, right? Because they are different than your normal TV viewer who will sit on the couch and kind of lock in, right? They're gonna if you don't hold their attention for 15 seconds, then boom, it's what's next, and they're going to the next thing that's popping up. So I sort of see it as it's more of a mature version, but kind of like a TikTok audience. Like, how long do you?
I to be honest with you, I generally watch YouTube videos at night. Like I watch it throughout the day. I don't have my TV on. I watch YouTube videos. So I'm watching, like I'll be done here and when I'm done I have a couple, I saw a couple videos popped up and I'll watch those videos. I won't watch TV anymore.
And is
unless
that
it's
like
something really captivating?
And that's an active viewing experience for you. You're not just throwing it on in the
every
background.
Night.
You're actually
no, every night.
Interesting.
Yeah, sometimes I have it on in the background, but generally I'm watching, my favorite content creators on there. I stopped watching TV like in the traditional sense like 10 years ago. I just canceled cable, and a lot of these streaming services like YouTube TV didn't exist, but the ones that were out there weren't so great as far as quality went. So I got down this rabbit hole of watching YouTube videos. So for me, it's very normal to put on YouTube and watch content on there.
And that's what these companies, they're going to need to study all of those behaviors, right? Like that is probably going to be a little bit more of the future with the current demographic that they're trying to attract. Is here's the new viewing pattern, which sucks for them because it's very quick. It's it's Instagram Reels and TikTok and YouTube Shorts. Like that's what people, when I hear about it, it's always a short or a reel, or that's what I get past. Like I'm rarely, someone rarely will send me like a 20-minute YouTube video, but I'll often get like these 30-second Instagram Reels or TikToks that are just forwarded to me for some random reason. That's going to be something that they're studying right now. I've got to imagine about just how content is going to work in 10 years. Like, by the end of this NFL deal, what is, are people still watching 3-hour football games the same way? Maybe that's all that they're watching for 3 hours on television at that point. Who knows?
I think sports are going to, football, basketball, hockey, baseball, they'll be fine. People will watch that.
Pro wrestling? Will pro wrestling be fine?
It's existed since TV was invented, and it's always done well, even in its bad times. So I think wrestling will always be here to stay. It's a bizarre form of entertainment. It's a subculture of sports. It's sports adjacent. As long as there's a place to put it, I think they'll have a large audience. But I mean, it is wild to think about that in 2024, you're selling out 60,000 person stadiums for pro wrestling. I think that's unbelievable. It's really transcended into its own thing. And it was a work. The whole thing was to con you into thinking it was real. And that's how it started.
Not to say that WWE is ahead of the curve here, but look at what they're doing with WWE Speed. Like, to me, I have no interest in watching any of that stuff, but they're taking what was, I believe, originally a Stardom idea, and they then decided to put it on X or Twitter. And who sits there and watches, stuff for more than 2 minutes at a time on Twitter? Like, I'm lucky if I hit the volume on a Twitter video, right? I don't usually have time for that stuff, but they are trying to figure out in this deal with Elon Musk, as he tries to have Twitter be used a little bit more as a video platform. And I'm sure that some of their deal with him is to understand what are the viewing habits of the people who watch this thing and who don't. Like, how often are people scrolling and then pausing? How often are people just zipping right through it? I'm sure most of the value in this deal on X is in the data and in the viewing habits of people scrolling, I guess.
Yeah, I think the concern over length of viewership, I think that's manufactured more than anything else. I think it really has to do with the sheer amount of content that comes in versus the content that you're consuming. There's so much content out there that if you are not top tier content, you're not going to be able to capture the audience. And that's why you keep saying, well, that's why those 30-second videos to 1-minute videos are the way to go. Yeah, I think as a general, but that's not the future of real content. That's short-term TikTok stuff. And you know what? TikTok goes away tomorrow, and that's it. What are you going to do? Now you're going to say, well, we were wrong here? I don't think that's the answer, short form of content. I think there is a sweet spot, and depends on the content. I think the WWE's fine. I think AEW's fine. I think sports are fine. Nobody looks at the news and they're like, why is this 30 minutes? I want this in 3 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, man. All right. We haven't even hit on two of the things that I wanted to talk to you about. So we'll do it quickly because we only got about 15 minutes here. Did you see the story by The Wrap about The Rock and him showing up late and costing production on this new film that he's got coming out that was supposed to come out last Christmas, but it's coming out this Christmas.
Yeah.
Him being late to sets, but then not having time to go to the actual bathroom. So he is urinating in a bottle. And then there's the Hiram Garcia stuff, which is his business partner and also his ex-wife's husband. Man, The Rock has taken a hit. Where did this come from?
Who's paying for those hit pieces, huh?
Yeah.
Why those hit pieces? I'm telling you, at first I thought, now it seems like it's like a systematic attack on him.
Yeah, who did he
really
piss off?
does feel that way. He pissed somebody off. And he pissed somebody off with the Black Adam stuff. And ever since Black Adam, he has been, the media has been attacked. Listen, it's definitely hit pieces on him. And he said no to the wrong person. That's really what it is. I mean, and I'm not being a conspiracy theorist here, but he was beloved by everybody. He was beloved in Hollywood. He was beloved in wrestling. And all of a sudden, it has been one thing after another against them. This is how it works. They build you up and then they kill you off.
Yeah. The one thing that it does look like, if I was reading this story correctly, and I don't understand the movie industry as well as I understand sports, but it seems like as his star grew, so did his power. And with that power came the ability to work with people that he wanted to work with, a lot of them from his own companies. And the Hiram Garcia thing, there was a quote in this piece that I thought was one of the best quotes that I've ever read in a piece like this. If Vince from Entourage tried to give Turtle a real job, Hiram Garcia is what you get as a result, according to a top agency insider. Wow.
Yeah, he pissed the wrong person off. Yeah. Because, here's the thing. You don't publish something like that and you don't leak something like that unless you're willing to be able to take the it's going to be exposed. I mean, he knows his enemies. He's going to find out who said that quote.
Yeah, they should be scared. Did you see what he did to Cody, man?
Did you see his arms? His arms are gigantic.
I would be scared. I don't know if that's a dude I'd be messing with.
Listen, his hand is in every freaking business you could ever imagine. He has an energy drink. He has a tequila company. He has a football company. He's in wrestling. He's on the board of directors there.
Did I tell you that I bought some Papatui? Do you see?
No.
Have you seen the skincare stuff that he came out with?
No, I haven't. How is? I saw that he came up.
I mean, it can't be great because it's not like it's expensive or anything. But me and some friends, we're all in the Papatui bandwagon for now, buying the Rock skincare products. So, I guess this makes sense based off of this story in how strategic he was when it came to this Cody Rhodes storyline, because Dave Meltzer's reporting was that originally they were going to go Rock and Roman. He read the lay of the land. He did not want to be booed as a babyface. And so they pivoted to him being the heel because at least he could control being the heel rather than the fans turning on him and forcing him to be the heel. So that sort of aligns with a lot of the stuff that's in this piece about, the people that he keeps around him and such. And I'm not saying, it's a piece written with a specific directive for sure. But if you are The Rock and you are looking at the Black Adam situation and, maybe your star is not as hot as it once was, then you probably want to shield yourself a little bit from that stuff. And the WrestleMania angle pivoting off of that was absolutely brilliant how it turned out. So it worked out for him on that.
Yeah. I It's fascinating to me. Very fascinating. I'm curious to see what else comes out.
All right, let's talk about this WWE draft. I saved this for the end because I thought it was
abysmal.
Production wise, I thought it was really good, bringing back the old school stars and the way that they utilize the segments within the show. I thought all that stuff was good, but the actual draft in of itself, like, we can't blame this one on Vince anymore, right? Like,
no,
I know Vince doesn't pay attention to real sports and how real drafts are put together. So this one's not on Vince, and it still sucked. This was like the worst one ever, maybe.
This was really bad. It was really terrible. It was a nothing show, and I felt that last week's Raw was not great either. It wasn't a great Raw last week.
We thought
SmackDown,
about it.
Yeah, SmackDown was a whatever show. It's that post WrestleMania, like they did everything they could, and now they're slowing everything down. I thought the draft. First of all, the draft is so dumb, and you try. Do you know how many people that are non-wrestling fans, like that I know, that are intrigued now because they saw WrestleMania, they saw the hype, and they saw a draft after the NFL draft. They turned it on, and my friend Bob, he goes, he's like, am I an idiot, or are they just picking people randomly? Is this, I'm like, why is that? He's like I know who CM Punk is. Why would he not be the first one? Let me see who he. Hold on, let me find the text. Oh, he goes, is Kevin Owens a bigger name than CM Punk? I said, no, not really, but I'm like, that's okay. And he's like, how about God, let me find this. It was in the first round. Who was picked first in the first round for Raw?
Jey Uso.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, it was. He's like, is Jey Uso a bigger name? I said, no, Jey Uso's not a big name. He's like, then why the hell would you not pick the biggest names? I'm like, that's a great question. It's because it's wrestling, and there's no logic behind anything that they do, especially when it comes to something serious like this. What they should have done, and they should have explained to us that, like, listen, it's not only about picking the biggest name. There's strategy here. You need your tag division to be built up. You need your women's division. You need a couple cruiserweights. You got to fill in these blanks. You're filling in a position, not a star. So when the Giants are drafting a quarterback, they need a quarterback. And they may be a way better running. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Yeah. You have to go based on the position and not the player. And I'm like, you know what? That would be such a great explanation. They just don't think that way.
Okay.
But some of it is so ridiculous.
Answer this question for me. In what world on the SmackDown roster is Carmelo Hayes your second most important person?
I'll tell you why. That's an easy one for me. It's a young up-and-comer. It's a rookie. He's an all-star. Did unbelievable in the minors. We're building for the next decade.
Okay.
That would be my baseball explanation.
That makes sense, except he's on a 1-year contract, and Raw can just draft him next year if they wanted. So there's actually zero incentive to invest in young talent. Now, here's the other thing about Carmelo Hayes, right? Let's say that what you just said was true. By the end of that show, what did the end of that show say? Oh, man, what a shitty pick Carmelo Hayes was. He just lost.
Yeah, he just lost. You just picked this stud, and he lost.
Oh, man.
Amir in our chat room, $2. I had more exciting drafts in my GM mode of SmackDown versus Raw 2006.
Okay. He is not lying. You know why? Because I have friends who get these games specifically to like run the franchise stuff, and they do that stuff way better on the video games than they actually do it in real life. Like,
of course.
Just, the idea that, and here's what I think that they're banking on. What I think that they're banking on is real sports fans don't really watch our show anyway, so we can do it in the existence of our universe, and the fans will generally be happy with it.
They do it for 8-year-olds. that draft concept is done for children, where you're not going to question it, and you're going to be like, oh my gosh, they got him. How about the freaking tumble roller, the ball roller? How about they bring the cage back, they put a bunch, and they draw numbers?
Well, there was
and you know what? If you're a higher level wrestler, you get a very different type of number. Maybe they could do it that way.
There was a year where I think this was when they were doing Raw, SmackDown, and ECW, and there was just like a buzzer, and you slapped the buzzer, and it like an old game show, it just went and it gave you a name, and it was like a randomized draft. Exactly.
No whammy, no whammy, no whammy. Yeah. Big money, big money, big money. No whammy. Yeah, why don't they do it that way? That makes more sense.
That way. It just made it.
No, they got to do it
random. At least to the public's eye, there was obviously some strategy behind it. That makes more sense today than doing it how they did. Like if it was just we're gonna put all these names in a hat and we're picking names out of a hat and that's who we get, then you get sort of then what they did makes a lot more sense. But other than that,
listen, Charlotte Flair wasn't drawn.
Nope.
You know?
They pulled Roman out immediately.
out.
I don't think Rhea was a part of Judgment Day, right?
I guess not, because she's out.
Yeah, so I try not. I've done this spiel on podcasts in the past, like over the last 3 years, about how you could actually do it, but you would need somebody with more time than Triple H has to book a television show. You'd need Geto from New Japan booking the G1 to actually make it, because you could really make it fun, but that's just not, it's not a priority for them to do it that way. So, but by the way, your friend Bob, I like your friend Bob. I think about the Bobs of the world when I look at this Backlash card. And I go, wow, we brought in all these new fans to rewatch, to come back to this show and come back and watch WWE, make WWE more of a consistent part of their entertainment. And all of the people that they came back for, with the exception of Cody Rhodes, are not on this Backlash card.
Yeah, wild.
So you're hoping, what you're banking on is the Cody story, finishing the story works, and now Cody is just a star in a different millennium because he can carry this thing. And I'm looking at this Backlash card, and I've every WWE fan and smart wrestling fan, and I this is not just me shitting on it, but everyone is saying it's in France, it's not a big deal, it's on Saturday morning, there will be people watching, and my thought is, what is this history of WWE? There's a peak, then there's hubris, and then there's a fall. I'm not saying they're going anywhere, because you look at those house shows and you look at the crowds that they're going to be drawing until the summer. Those are up. But that is also based off of what they were doing for WrestleMania.
No, they're going to be fine. And then Roman's going to come back. Punk is going to come back, and he's going to be cleared. And that's going to be another 6 to 8 months.
And that's what they're banking
whatever.
On. That's
and
what
then you're in WrestleMania
on.
Season, and they're gonna ride that again, And then here comes Dwayne again, and you're gonna be fine. They're okay for the next 2 years if
they're going to be fine.
Happen.
But if you get injuries, if there are some frustrations, like what if Dwayne doesn't like the creative? What if what if something happens to Triple H? Like, there are other things that are kind of unpredictable that could happen. I just don't know that I would just flat out punt months of content because we know that we're hot. Some of this is unavoidable. Rock isn't going to be around. Roman's not going to be around. I would have had someone hotter than AJ ready for Cody as the first match. AJ's promo on SmackDown. I don't know. Is this dude a babyface? I thought him and LA Knight were fighting at his house. Like, what happened? So, not predicting anything. I'm just saying, since WrestleMania, the TVs have not been good. This pay-per-view is on paper a dud, but look, it could be a really fun show, and they've done
5
that
matches.
Before where, whatever it is, just something that you kind of want to put in the back of your mind for now.
Yeah.
But something I was thinking about, like, man, Backlash. Why am I not excited like at all to watch this wrestling show?
For me, it's my daughter's communion, so I won't be watching it live.
Well, thank
That's
God
why I'm
for
not
Peacock,
excited.
then.
Thank God for Peacock, and I could go and watch it when I get back.
All right. We will be back next week to talk about some of whatever happened at Backlash, if anything. And hopefully, for Dynamite's sake, we'll get a little bit more storyline about Tony Khan, though it doesn't sound like he'll be on the show because, according to Tony Schiavone, he cannot travel. So I guess he can't even be put in a car. His neck is so damaged to drive anywhere. So he is stuck. Maybe he's just going to be, maybe he's like literally stuck at Daly's place. Like that's where he sleeps. That's where he eats.
He's sleeping in his office at Daly's place.
So we'll see what happens there, but hopefully we get some nice payoff for those who lasted through Dynamite and Collision and through the wackiness of the draft. And we'll have something to talk about next week. So, all right. For Andrew, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.